I accidentally accused my wife of cheating on me, when it was actually my kid, and now we may split. I, 52M, and my wife, 50F, have been married for 25 years and are really happy. We have the usual fights, me not cleaning the bathroom, arguing over my losing money on sports betting, her buying twice as much at the store as we agreed on, and so on, but we have a very happy marriage. Until at 8 p.m. yesterday night. Recently, we've been having some issues in the bedroom. I don't want to disrupt the post, but intimacy has naturally slowed between the two of us in recent years. This has truly troubled my wife. We both agreed that once we voiced our concerns, we would take action to address them. We spoke with a few doctors, and they all wanted to put my wife on some serious drugs, which she was strongly against. This resulted in roughly a year of creating what we call our love drawer, which is a collection of things in the kitchen that my wife has tried and tested and enjoys the ingredients of. It's nothing out of the ordinary. Items like vitamin D, zinc, Lubrisil soft gels, and maca have been tried and tested, nothing too unusual, and everything is over the counter. Here's where things start to go wrong. So, my wife automatically takes these things around the times when we plan to be intimate, or try. Now, I don't enjoy watching the kitchen drawer, but I do occasionally peek, I know, but I can't help it. About 3 weeks ago, I realized a large number of pills and soft gels were vanishing. Thinking I'm about to have a terrific week, I begin to mentally prepare for it. So, about a week later, I recheck the drawer, and a lot more of the items had been gone. I recall thinking, that's strange, we haven't done anything recently. About a week later, the same thing happened, tons of tablets and soft gels were gone. And, to be honest, I get a little lost in my thoughts. Last night, my wife and I went out to supper. After a few glasses of wine, I questioned my wife why she's taken so much from her bedroom cabinet without attempting any intimacy. I asked from a place of anxiety, primarily for my health, and perplexity. My wife immediately becomes quite defensive, dismisses the discussion, and tells me she is not talking about it. This, of course, has made it the only thing I want to talk about, and while I respect everyone's I don't want to talk about this, I believe something like this should probably be kicking disgust. I press a little more, and she stops having this conversation for approximately an hour. Basically, I merely ask my wife if she's seeing anyone else. My wife, who has never been violent or loud, starts yelling at me in this Italian restaurant. She informs me that my daughter, 25F, has been having relationship issues with her boyfriend and has taken some of the stuff to help. I am like, why the kick didn't you tell me? She goes on a rant about how certain things are girl to girl and how my daughter did not want her to tell anyone. Which I get, but come on, I buy the items to fill the drawers. My wife ends up leaving the restaurant in the middle of supper. I've never seen my wife so angry, and I'm concerned for our marriage. And to top it off, my daughter is acting strangely around me. I understand that my questions was inappropriate, but the defensiveness caught me off guard, and I would have expected my daughter's use of our belongings to be discussed. When I try to communicate with my wife, she portrays me as an insane, out-of-control monster, as if I've broken the trust in our marriage and ruined 25 years of work we've made together. Reddit, am I crazy? I'm completely bewildered right now. Edit, 4 hours since my post. Wow, there is a lot of great stuff in here. Thank you to everyone for your remarks. This post made me feel better and allowed me to reflect on other parts of our marriage. I've seen a lot of requests for information, so I'll try to answer some of them here. My wife and I didn't go to the doctor solely for libido difficulties. I'm not sure what Reddit's average age is, but as you get older, things like menopause and other hormonal issues become a reality. I didn't plan on questioning my wife at the dinner, it was in the back of my mind, and after a few glasses of wine, I handled the situation poorly, which I completely agree with all of you, is not the right time or place, even though we've had difficult conversations in public before, which still doesn't justify it. Calling it having a drawer may have been a horrible term, but it's just how we refer to it. We didn't think too hard about it, and I'm not sure who of us came up with it. I'm not sure why it's in the kitchen, but we're past the point where we care what others see in our home. I wasn't monitoring the gender drawer. The Lubrisil soft gels, which we keep out of the box, come in a 30-pill supply, and half of the pack is missing. I didn't count, which is clear even with a quick scan. And as to why I didn't immediately presume my daughter, the soft gels described above, as well as some of the other items in there, are for a specific purpose, aside from vitamins, and while I don't know the components very well, you wouldn't expect those items to be shared. Finally, to those who have mentioned that my wife is still hiding something, I appreciate your thoughts, which have given me a lot to think about. While I will not jump to such conclusions, I agree that there is likely more that needs to be talked between myself, my wife, and my kid. Ada for not being concerned about my wife's affair. This is a throwaway account. My 29M wife, 29F, has been having an affair for 2 years, and I've been aware of it almost the entire time. We've been together for 7 years, married for 5. We don't have children. I've been working from home since COVID hit. She has worked as a secretary in a huge office building for more than 3 years. Now, I'm not going to pretend that our marriage was flawless 2 years ago and that I can't believe she would do this. I was completely complacent in my life and was not putting much effort into our relationship at all. That doesn't excuse what she did, and she struggled with intimacy and communication, which led us to where we were. I just want to make it obvious that I am not a saint in any of this. I completely understand that we were basically housemates who occasionally had love. Well, I found out right away when the EA began. I've logged everything into every device we own. This includes my work computer. I'm talking about synced email, text messages, photos, social networking, and so on. So I was basically reading about her affair on a regular basis, including when it became a PA about 4 weeks in. The fact that I felt nothing about it, however, signaled the end of this. I was completely unconcerned, perhaps a bit humiliated at worst. When the PA started 2 years ago, I realized my marriage was over and that I should divorce, mostly because I felt nothing. I started looking into lawyers, thinking we could accomplish this easily and amicably. Here's where it gets insane. When the EA began, she appeared less unhappy. Then, the weekend after the PA began, I experienced the shock of my life. She came into my workplace on Saturday morning and asked me to take her for a trek and picnic. Initially, I believed this was the time to bust her bubble and share what I knew. But I didn't. I determined to get up and do it. I assumed she was going to announce it herself and file for divorce. We had a wonderful day, and she never mentioned anything. I chalked it up to one more pleasant memory before we ended this affair. She then invited me out again that week. Then we experienced intimacy. I'm not sure if it was shame, guilt, or whatever, but she was essentially taking the effort to improve our marriage. After the first week, she started to open up more about her feelings. For some reason, I felt compelled to make an effort in our relationship, reconnect with some old friends, and get all of the laundry off the gym equipment. The affair continued, but as we spent more time together in those early weeks, I became less concerned, and everything seemed to improve. I resolved to forget about it, divorce her, and simply live my life. I still have a strong affection for this woman. Until 2 days ago, we were in a pretty good place. We went out every other weekend, had date nights on Thursdays, and maintained regular intimacy and communication. I don't even read their messages anymore. I just check to see if anything is still going on. 2 days ago, I observed she was having frequent and lengthy discussions with one of her closest friends. I asked my wife about it, and it turns out that my friend's husband was found having an affair. My wife has comforted her. This would not have been a big problem, but my wife then began berating her husband for straying. I'm not sure why I said that, but it came out as you're one to judge. She became really defensive and pressed me on why I said that. I tried to apologize and move on, but she wouldn't let up, and I eventually admitted that I had known about her affair all along. She attempted to play dumb, which irritated me, so I began mentioning specifics. She then became enraged at me, began crying, and accused me of not caring about her. I became enraged and started yelling at her since I am not the one having an affair. When it grew hot, we retreated into separate rooms and slept it off. Yesterday morning, she got up early and left for work before I did. I checked their texts again and saw that she had ended her relationship with AP. He was continually texting her on all apps, and she kept blocking him. She arrived home early yesterday. I started to talk to her, but she stopped me, looked at me, and said, "How could I let this happen?" I said, "Because I just didn't care." She then called me a big jerk and locked herself in our room till she left for work this morning. She returned home tonight, said nothing to me, and locked herself up again. I can't even imagine how I could be the jerk in this case. Is there any perspective out there where I am? If so, please share it with me, because I don't think there is. AITA for causing my ex-sister-in-law to have a breakdown because I brought my brother and his family to my home. For years ago, my 27F brother, 30M, disclosed to my ex-SIL, 30F, that he had been cheating on her, gotten his girlfriend, 28F, pregnant, and intended to divorce her. The entire family shunned my brother and supported our ex-SIL emotionally and financially throughout the process, as we should. My brother married the lady he cheated with. They currently have 3 children together, a son, 3M, and twin daughters, 1F, and are happily married. As previously stated, the entire family shunned my brother, and we did not hear from him for 3.5 years. He approached my mother, who is deeply devout and despises adultery, 6 months ago and sought for reconciliation. My mother didn't want to talk to my brother very much, she just wanted to meet her grandchildren. Meeting her grandchildren lessened her feelings toward my brother. The entire family quickly restored contact with him. My ex-SIL is still friends with my sister, and she freaked out when she heard about this. As a result, we solely spoke with my brother over the phone. The more I spoke with my brother and his wife on the phone, the more I made friends with his wife. We would spend hours on the phone discussing whatever crazy nonsense came to mind. We made each other laugh. It was fantastic. Because of this bond, I decided to finally invite my brother and a new friend to my home for my son's birthday celebration yesterday. It seemed like the best time to do so. What I hadn't counted on was my ex-SIL attending the party. I chatted with her a few days ago, and she said she wasn't sure whether she was coming or not. She hadn't said anything before yesterday, so I invited my brother and his family. When my ex-SIL arrived, it was a shit show. She yelled at my brother, who was stunned, and when my ex-SIL saw who the woman next to my brother was, she yelled, "Stop looking at me, you Jewish whore, my brother's wife is half Jewish." I had tried to calm her down and talk to my ex-SIL, but by this point, I had yelled at her to get out of the house. She did, and we just like it never happened. However, at the conclusion of the party, my sister, who is still close with my ex-SIL, told me that I should have informed him that my brother and his wife were invited. It would have influenced her decision to attend or not. Not saying anything made me an ass. I explained that she didn't specify whether she was coming and that I only kicked her out after she made a blatantly racist remark. My sister was still angry about it, but she departed shortly after. I, 35M, have been married to my wife, 37F, for 11 years and together for 14. We have a beautiful 7-year-old daughter, and our marriage has been wonderful with no big issues until last year. Last year, I discovered that my wife had cheated on me before we married. One of her acquaintances turned religious and confessed her behaviors to me, prompting me to approach my wife. She was surprised when I found out and apologized profusely for her conduct. However, she stated that it is no longer essential because we are doing well and have a family together. She told me I should accept it because it happened 4 months into being exclusive, and she was a dumb girl out of college at the time. My thoughts told me the same thing. It happened 14 years ago, and we are still pleased now. I decided to forgive her and resume our normal lives. Reality was not so good. My mental state deteriorated significantly. I understood it wasn't something that happened 14 years ago to me. My wife confirmed that I had cheated. I was less confident and couldn't have love with my wife. I couldn't develop an erection for her. This resulted in me feeling disgusted being around her. I even took a DNA and STD test in secret. Thankfully, our daughter is mine, and I am free of STDs. Then a year of intensive individual therapy began for me. I realized I needed to change. I wasn't the same person as before. I also expressed my feelings to my wife, and after some prodding, we both began attending couples counseling. However, in the end, I decided to divorce. Here's my reasoning. She not only cheated, but also lied to me for 14 years. She did not admit to the action herself. Even after she apologized, she ignored the fact, stating it's no longer important. Young me was deprived of an option. Cheating was, and still is, one of the most significant deal breakers for me. If I'd known back then, I'd have broken it off. I am content with my life and grateful for the birth of our kid. She is the light that shines brightest for me. One of the main reasons I keep alive, yet I was still denied a choice back then. IC and MC did not understand our troubles or my affection for her. It also began to impair family life, which may have an impact on our daughter. I believe our kid would benefit from having us as co-parents rather than growing in a fractured home situation with constant disagreements. My private life is virtually over. We do have genders, but I feel like those women in movies/series who just lay there and stare at the ceiling, waiting for it to end. The only distinction is that I am a male. I don't even want private gestures anymore. Last week, I sat down with my wife and detailed everything I said here, including my sentiments, reasonings, and some other personal details. I've been talking to a lawyer for the past month, and the paperwork is almost done. 50-50 custody, 50-50 asset sharing, and as cooperative as feasible. I explained everything thoroughly and properly to her. She freaked out and had a panic attack. We spent the night at the ER. She begs me to reconsider and not throw away 14 years. However, much though I would prefer to stay, doing so would mean becoming roommates and creating a shattered family atmosphere for our kid. Ada for not doing anything to stop my spouse, M35, from cheating on his work wifey, F25. So I met my work wife last Thursday at the Christmas party. She introduced herself as work wifey, and she referred to my husband as work hubby in front of everyone. When she spotted me, she just exclaimed, "Oh, we're like two completely different people, how strange." Not strange at all. We do not know each other. No, I mean that ex and I get along so well that we completely understand each other and have a lot in common. That's why he reminds me of my work husband. I had no idea what a manic pixie dream girl was, but apparently she was one and it was something to brag about. I found the whole thing humorous at first, but it became less amusing on the drive home. I felt a little weird watching my husband's profile, wondering what was going on in his thoughts. He told me about his new coworker, who he got along with. He informed me she did an excellent job and was a gamer much like him. I'm not even sure how to hold the joystick properly. I'm not even sure it's called a joystick anymore. Ouch, do I sound like a boomer? I know they text a lot, too. even on the weekends. I had never considered that before. I found myself sitting on the toilet seat at 3:30 a.m., going through his phone in complete silence so as not to wake him up. Her words, not mine, describe her as youthful and quirky. She is also quite humorous, but those are her words, not mine. In every text, she refers to him as Hubs or hubby. And in one text, she told him that men fell for her quickly, and she just wanted to let him know. I suppose it's because she's a young, quirky, witty, maniacal pixie dream girl gamer. Her last text was sent the same evening we left the party. She said that she was furious that he didn't say goodbye before leaving, and that I was a bit shocking to her because she didn't anticipate him to be this type. OMG, your wife is boring. I didn't expect that. When I regained consciousness, I felt ashamed. Cowering over his phone and reading strange and very childish texts instead of sleeping soundly with my husband makes me feel safe in our connection, but I couldn't help but agree with crazy wifey in certain ways. Why does he keep engaging with her? He does not flirt back or initiate talks, yet he does not completely shut her down. My spouse could be stupid for not detecting flirting, but I believe this goes beyond stupidity. Is he enjoying the attention? Or worse, does he reciprocate it? In that scenario, she is not mistaken. What is he doing with someone like me, who is completely different from whatever is going on between them? Today I had my normal brunch with my mother, aunt, sister, and sister-in-law. They called me an AH for not stopping the budding affair. I disagreed and tried to explain that I couldn't be in a relationship where I had to be on alert against temptations. I want a marriage in which he is with me because he wants to be with me, and if he cheats, he will no longer want to be with me. My mother was the one who became the most furious, calling me a fool and an AH, and claiming that this was not a mature thing to do. I need to tell my husband to discontinue their friendship because if I don't, I'll let him cheat. Aita? I can't believe the life they want me to live, and how natural it is for my family to think that way. I want a willing husband, not a prisoner. I am looking for someone who is completely committed to me. Thank you, everyone. It's been a difficult few days, but after today's exchange between my husband and maniac pixie whatever, yes, I snooped again, I feel better. I've decided not to speak with him about it. At least not right now. I made a statement about what happened between them, and my husband was not pleased with her. Maybe I imagined it to be bigger than it was. Anyway, I will not spy again, nor will I confront him about it. I will, however, inform my husband that I did not like his colleague, perhaps not now, though. We have 1 week left and then 2 weeks off that we've been looking forward to spending together, and I want to spend the holidays with my spouse, not chatting about foolish and irrelevant individuals. Ada, for preferring my sister above my daughter? My ex-wife, 33F, and I, 34M, concluded our divorce last year. Long story short, she was having an emotional affair with a coworker. She is currently in a relationship with him. We also co-parent our daughter, 14F. My kid is very close to her mother, and she even supported her during her affair. For the first few months after the divorce, I attempted to keep a good connection with my daughter. I gave her gifts, never resented her mother, and did my best. But my daughter was always quite cold to me. After a few months, she told me unequivocally that she preferred her stepfather over me, and that he was the guy my ex-wife deserved as a husband and daughter. I had no idea why she said that, and it was the most terrible thing someone had ever spoken to me. I had a major breakdown that night and took the next few days off from work. After a few days, I determined that I wanted to emotionally and financially isolate myself from my daughter, and that I would do the absolute minimum to meet my legal and financial commitments until she was 18. All this time, my sister was the only one who supported me. My parents were long gone, so I had no other family. My sister went through a similar situation a few years ago, when her husband cheated on her. Fortunately, she had no children, but the event had left her so upset that she declared she would never date again since she had lost faith in all men. After deciding to disassociate myself from my daughter, I began removing her as the principal beneficiary of all my financial accounts, including my 401k, and replacing her with my sister as the beneficiary. I began taking cash from the college savings account I had set up for my daughter, and I used them for myself and my sister. This was not a one-way street. My sister earns more than I do, and during the last few months, I have received more gifts from her than I had from my ex-wife in my whole life. We also went on a 2-week holiday in Europe. Overall, I've emotionally and financially isolated myself from my daughter and am doing the very bare minimum. I want to never speak to her again after she becomes 18, as I only want to complete my legal and financial commitments to her. My daughter has clearly observed a shift in my behavior, although she has not said anything yet. Ada for paying the court-ordered child support? Background: my wife and I are getting divorced after 19 years of marriage. We have 2 children, aged 12 and 10. X is an elementary school teacher. Nobody cheated, and there was little controversy overall. We've just grown apart, and none of us feels in love anymore. After 4 years of struggle, we decided it was time to stop it. We agreed to split our savings 50/50ths and our time with the kids 50/50ths. While we were separated, I calculated all of our expenses and proposed a certain amount for monthly child support based on our income and expenses. Things were amicable, so I figured we could iron out the divorce/custody/child support issues without hiring lawyers and wasting a lot of money. I believe her sister has been in her ear because my ex abruptly chose to pursue court-ordered child support. I felt like I was being really generous, and I was delighted to do so because I make a good living and she needs to live on a teacher's salary. Fast forward to last week, and it turns out the court-ordered child support is less than what I was paying her. To be honest, it isn't much less, about 15% less. I informed her I would pay the court-ordered child support and nothing more, and she is freaking out about it. Ada? Update: I appreciate and understand everyone's worry over my children. They are by far the most essential item here. However, the children are in good health. I am lucky to earn a nice salary, and my children do not want for anything. I'm more concerned about them being spoilt than about them not getting what they need. Both of them have already enrolled in college. AITA for not agreeing to give my oldest daughter a larger share of my estate as compensation for being disinherited by my aunt. I, 45M, have 2 daughters, Sarah, 23F, and Chantel, 16F, from my first and second wife. My first wife and I met in middle school, dated intermittently throughout high school, and married after college. During this time, Sarah's mother swore to me that I was her only guy, and I believed her because of how strict and pious our respective families were, as she was also my one and only. I assumed Sarah's mother would be my everlasting partner, but it turned out that she had cheated on me with at least 2 guys. I only found out because one of the men Sarah's mother cheated on me with had a wife who publicly confronted her with video evidence, and the second man confessed. He also had evidence, as a way to get back at my first wife. She cheated with an old boyfriend from college, who could have been Sarah's father. I was distraught, suffered a major mental breakdown, and had to be hospitalized. After I got out, I attempted to forgive and go on, but every little error set me off, which wasn't healthy. It wasn't an easy decision, but I opted to divorce, and Sarah's mother made it difficult by continuing to use Sarah to keep the marriage intact even after she was confirmed to be my daughter. It wasn't until my Aunt Pearl said something to Sarah's grandparents that they convinced her mother to quit being so tough. I felt so relieved after the divorce was finalized and we worked out a parenting arrangement. I eventually met Chantel's mother and we married shortly after our daughter was born. Uncle's wife was unhappy about it because she disliked premarital intimacy, but she finally accepted it. Unfortunately, Sarah and Chantel do not have a good connection because my ex-wife took the news of my second marriage terribly, which affected Sarah, and she also considered Chantal as illegitimate and continually accused her of not being my daughter because she did not look like me. Chantal is multiracial. Fast forward to now, my aunt died and left Chantal a big trust, but she only gave Sarah $1,000 since she considered the thought of Sarah donating any money she inherited from her to my ex abhorrent. I had no knowledge until the will was read, but Sarah, her mother, and maternal grandmother now want me to simply leave Chantal $1,000 and give her everything to compensate, which I refuse to do. Sarah and Chantal are both my children, and they should inherit equally from me. I feel sorry for Sarah, but I have no control over what my aunt did. AITA, what if I don't do what Sarah wants? ETA, because I kept seeing, and I wanted to make it explicit. Sarah, and her mother/maternal side, want me to do to Chantal what my aunt did to her with my own personal assets. My aunt did not leave me any huge sums of money. Over the years, I've spent individual time with Sarah and tried to include her in events. I'm not sure what else I could have done to make her feel involved besides having full custody.